Hey, it's Dennis. Thanks for checking in. In our last video, we talked about labor units, and I mentioned to you that I preferred to have supervision included in the labor unit. It's okay if it comes to you as a separate budget. You can blend that into the labor unit, and I'll show you how to do that later. But I also mentioned that if it is included in the labor unit, it should account for about 10% of the labor unit. That's a good number. In some extreme cases where maybe you have a real simple project, requires limited supervision, you can adjust that down. At the other end of the spectrum, of course, if you have a very complex project that requires extra supervision, you can bolster that number some. But 10% is a pretty solid number. Same for material handling. And so what that means to you is that if you assign a task to an employee that's 10 hours long, you're going to keep 1 hour for supervision, and you're going to give them 9 hours to complete the actual work. If it's a 100-hour task, for example, you're going to keep 10 hours. You're going to give them 90 hours to complete the work. So let's say that you have 5 workers working for you on your crew. That's 10% per worker is 50%. That means 50% of your time is going to be spent supervising that crew. So what are you going to do with the other 50%? Play golf? Play pinochle with the superintendent? Drive your car around the site? No. You're going to schedule a half a day of work for yourself. If you're working an 8-hour day, that's 4 hours. You put your tools on and you work for 4 hours. You take your tools off and you supervise for 4 hours. You can do that in chunks or a little bit at a time or however you want to split it up through the day, but you need to be responsible for installing material for half a day. And if that's the bad news, there is some good news because you're the foreman. And that means that you can choose all the easiest tasks for yourself if you want to. And if you're wise, you will do that. You'll select tasks that you think are fat on hours that you can get done quickly. Let's say that you scheduled 4 hours worth of work for yourself and you could get it done in 2 hours. That gives you 2 additional hours for managing your crew and getting your paperwork done and things like that. When you get to 10 people on your crew, then you're not going to wear your tools anymore. You're going to be supervising all day long. And, if you're an aggressive person and you think, well, I could probably get by with only supervising 2 hours and then I could actually work for 6 hours and help get more material installed. Don't do that. Don't do that. Use your supervision time for supervising. So the first thing that you need to do is make sure that material gets on site. Whatever material you need, specialty material or anything that you need to get on site, get it on site before it's time to install it. Because if you don't have the material and you have the people, nothing's going to get done. You got to have the material there. That's your number one priority. You also need to get your paperwork done. You probably have some daily logs and other things that the company requires, maybe filling out time or whatever. But once you get all of those responsibilities out of the way, you need to spend your time circulating around your crew. Now, if it's a new project and a new crew and you're not used to them, you really need to be out there circulating. You need to be telling them, no, not like that, like this, not down there, up here, not over there, over here. Constantly critiquing them until they learn your style and get comfortable with it and what you're looking for. Once you get them to that level where they can install material on their own and you're happy with it, then leave them alone and let them work. But you still want to circulate around them. You want to constantly be out there with them, making sure the material's getting installed correctly. If it is, compliment them. Say, hey, thank you, man. That looks really good. I appreciate your hard work. You're doing a great job. Stop and talk to them. Let them know that you're happy with what they're doing, okay? If you see something wrong, ask them to correct it. The main thing is that if something gets installed improperly on your project, shame on you. Not shame on them, shame on you, because you should be out there looking at what's going on and making sure it's getting done properly. And if it's not, you need to catch it and you need to get it corrected quickly. Now, I'll close with a story. There are a lot of times when I see people get promoted to foreman and they think, oh boy, I'm the big guy on campus now, or the big gal, and that means I don't have to do anything. Take their tools off, they don't do any more work. You're still responsible for your share of material being installed until you have 10 people working for you. I've been doing a lot of solar stuff lately, and some of these crews get pretty large, and it's common for the contractor to look through their ranks as the crew grows and pick out some good people who they identify as, good workers and knowledgeable, and promote them to foreman. And a lot of times, all of the time, they'll give them a buggy to drive around in because these sites are pretty large and they got to get from here to there. But a lot of times, once these people get promoted to the foreman level, they think, oh boy, I'm the big person now, and they drive around in their buggy all day. They'll go to the end of some of these rows, and some of them are very long, and they'll sit there in their buggy and they'll look what's going on down there, and every once in a while talk to someone if they get close enough, but they won't get out of that buggy. And I see it a lot of times where, something on their crew starts to go south. Once somebody starts installing something improperly, it seems like everybody else adopts it, and then they just keep marching along down these rows, installing things improperly. And it takes them a long time to catch it because they're out there sitting in the buggy. You need to be circulating around those people as much as possible. Get your material on site, get your paperwork done, and get out there and circulate around those people and make sure they're installing material properly. If they are, compliment them on it. Let them know you appreciate it. If you find something wrong, get it fixed immediately, because if something goes south down there, that's your fault. That's your responsibility. And that costs a lot of money, and you don't want it to happen. So just get out there and circulate and keep your eye on things. All right, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for stopping by. I think in our next video, maybe we'll get into some 2-week rolling schedules or start heading that direction anyway. Thanks a lot.